The wind howled like a banshee through the jagged peaks of Macedonia. A cold wind, biting and fierce, tore at the cloaks of the assembled men. It carried the scent of pine and snow, a familiar aroma to the warriors who stood like statues against the elements. Above, the sky was a bruised canvas of gray and purple, mirroring the untamed spirit of the land. This was the harsh cradle of their youth, a land that bred warriors as naturally as it did wolves. From these unforgiving mountains they had risen, shepherds and farmers transformed into conquerors. They had answered the call of their king, a call that resonated with the ancient rhythm of their blood. They had marched across continents, their sandals pounding the earth in unison, their spirits forged in the fires of countless battles. They were the army of Alexander, the embodiment of his indomitable will. And today, standing on the precipice of destiny, they would decide the fate of empires. Men of Macedon! Alexander's voice, though quiet, cut through the wind like a blade. Look around you. These are the mountains that birthed us, the very air we breathe, the stuff of our making. He gestured to the towering peaks, their granite faces etched with the passage of time. These mountains have shaped us, tempered us into the weapons we are. He stood before them, a king forged in the crucible of war. His armor, dented and scarred, bore testament to the countless battles he had fought and won. His eyes, however, burned with the same unwavering fire that had ignited their spirits and led them to the ends of the earth. We were but shepherds, farmers, simple men of the soil. But destiny had other plans for us, a grander design woven into the fabric of our lives. He paused, allowing his words to sink in, to take root in the hearts of his men. From the ashes of our former lives, we have risen. We have become lions on the field of battle, our names whispered in fear by our enemies. Alexander raised his hand, his fingers tracing the jagged scar that bisected his left cheek, a souvenir from the Battle of Granicus River. These scars, he said, his voice rough with emotion, are not marks of defeat, but badges of honor, etched upon our flesh by the hands of our enemies. They are a testament to our courage, our resilience, our unwavering commitment to each other and to our cause. He saw the glint of steel in their eyes, the unwavering determination that had carried them through countless trials. These were not just soldiers. They were his brothers in arms, bound to him by ties of blood and shared experience. Each one of you, Alexander continued, his voice resonating with pride, bears the marks of war. Some are visible, etched upon your skin for all to see. Others run deeper, invisible to the naked eye, but no less real. He knew that the true cost of war was not measured in casualties alone. We carry the weight of our victories, the burden of our triumphs, Alexander said, his voice softening. We share it, as we share everything, as brothers, as comrades, as Spartans. From the sun-baked plains of Persia to the teeming cities of the East, Alexander declared, his voice rising again in a crescendo of triumph, we have brought the world to its knees. We have toppled empires, shattered armies, and seized riches beyond our wildest dreams. He reminded them of the glittering treasures they had claimed, the gold and silver that flowed like water through their fingers. He spoke of the exotic spices, the silks and jewels, the riches of the East that now adorned their homes and families. They had earned it all through blood and sweat, through their unwavering courage and their willingness to face any foe. We have tasted victory, Alexander continued, his voice filled with the heady intoxication of triumph, and it is sweeter than the honey of Hymettus. He had seen it in the eyes of his men, the fierce joy of battle, the thrill of the chase. But ours is not a quest for mere earthly riches, Alexander said, his voice softening, taking on a tone of paternal guidance. We fight for glory, for honor, for the immortal fame that comes from etching our names upon the very fabric of history. Alexander stepped closer to his men, his gaze sweeping over them, meeting the eyes of each and every one. He saw the weariness etched on their faces, the toll that years of constant campaigning had taken. He knew that many of them longed for home, for the comfort of their families, for the simple pleasures they had left behind. I see the weariness in your eyes, Alexander said, his voice filled with compassion. I know that many of you yearn for home, for the warmth of your hearths, for the embrace of your loved ones. He paused, acknowledging their sacrifices. You have been away from your homes, your families, for far too long. You have endured hardships and faced dangers that would make even the bravest man tremble. For your loyalty, your courage, your unwavering belief in me, Alexander said, his voice thick with emotion, I, your king, am eternally in your debt. He bowed his head in a gesture of heartfelt gratitude. You are the lions of Macedon, Alexander declared, his voice ringing with pride, and your names will be sung by bards for 1,000 generations to come. A hush fell over the assembled men, broken only by the sighing wind and the distant cry of a hawk circling overhead. Alexander could sense a shift in their mood, a subtle change in the atmosphere. The initial euphoria of his words was fading, replaced by a quiet contemplation, a growing unease. Yet, Alexander continued, his voice softer now, almost a whisper, I sense a change in the wind. He turned his head slightly, as if listening to a distant sound. A murmur carried on the breeze. I hear whispers of discontent, rumors of longing and unrest. He met their gaze, his eyes filled with concern. He knew that even the most loyal of soldiers had their limits. They had fought bravely, achieved the impossible, but even their iron wills were beginning to bend under the strain of endless conquest. Some of you, Alexander said, his voice laced with understanding, question the purpose of our endless campaigns. You wonder if the price of glory is too high, if the spoils of war are worth the sacrifices we have made. Alexander paused, letting the silence hang heavy in the air. He knew that the time had come for him to make a choice, a decision that would shape the destiny of his army, his kingdom, and perhaps the world. He drew himself up to his full height, his gaze sweeping over the assembled men, meeting their eyes with unwavering resolve. Men of Macedon, Alexander said, his voice resonating with authority, I offer you a choice that only you can make. We stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in our journey. We can choose to stay the course, Alexander continued, his voice filled with the allure of adventure, to push further eastward, to conquer new lands, to amass even greater riches and glory. We can continue our march to the ends of the earth, our names forever etched in the annals of history as the conquerors of the world. Or, Alexander said, his voice softening, we can choose to return home, to lay down our arms, to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We can return to our families, to our farms, to the lives we left behind. A collective gasp arose from the ranks, a mixture of astonishment and anticipation. The men shifted nervously, their eyes darting back and forth as if searching for answers in the faces of their comrades. The weight of the choice pressed down on them, heavy and inescapable. For the first time in years, the outcome, their future, hung precariously in the balance. The choice is yours, Alexander said, his voice steady and clear. I will not force any man to follow me where he does not wish to go. He held their gaze, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the torches that illuminated the scene. And then, a sound began to rise from the assembled ranks. A low rumble at first, like the distant growl of thunder. Alexander smiled, a rare and genuine smile that lit up his face and revealed the young man beneath the hardened exterior of the conqueror. He understood their answer, felt it in the very marrow of his bones. They would follow him, these brave warriors, to the ends of the earth and beyond. To glory! Alexander shouted, raising his sword high above his head, the polished metal catching the light of the torches and sending a blinding flash across the assembled ranks. To glory! The men roared back, their voices echoing across the mountains, a chorus of defiance that challenged the very gods themselves. The die was cast, their destiny awaited.